serious survivor here. And today I want to talk about a subject that is very controversial. A lot of people are up in arms, so to speak, about this. And this is gun control, gun confiscation. Due to the recent events throughout the world, every day we turn on the TV, we see about a new shooting. But with all the recent shootings and all the debate about gun control, it's just a matter of time before much stricter measures are put into place to control the purchase and the ownership of firearms in the United States. This has been an ongoing debate for many, many years. There's groups that want to ban guns altogether and groups that support, open carry and carrying firearms and owning as many as you want without many restrictions. But most people fall sort of in between from the people that I talk to. But the problem is the politicians, it seems like, really favor gun control. It's a major talking point to them. They seem to think or seem to try to project the image that gun control somehow will stop these violent crimes from happening. Statistics throughout the world have proven that incorrect. If you were to ban guns altogether, then it would just increase the number of violent crimes that are committed with other weapons such as, tools, household tools, knives, baseball bats, things like that. So banning guns will in no way inhibit the violent tendencies of criminals. Criminals are going to be violent when they want to be violent, and it doesn't matter if they have a firearm or not. For those that have that frame of mind and those that want to accomplish this type of violent action, then the restriction of firearms is not a restriction on them. If a criminal is going to commit a crime, then he's going to find a way to do it whether he has a firearm or not. And just by outlawing or banning firearms is certainly not going to take all of the firearms off of the streets. What it's going to do is prevent people like me and you from legally purchasing firearms. It's going to ban us from owning firearms. The subject of gun control is highly debated, but the Second Amendment does give us the right to own firearms for many different reasons. We're not going to get into the details of the Second Amendment, but I think everyone's familiar with it and the rights that it grants us as citizens of the United States. What I want to talk about is how I think, this is a theory, I'm not saying this is 100% going to happen, but I think this is a very plausible theory on how the government will enact gun control. I don't believe that it's just going to be a sweeping law that's passed one day in which the government says all guns are banned, all guns are outlawed, turn your guns in or go to jail. I really don't believe it's going to be like that. I do believe, however, it's going to start with taxation. And taxation is something that's very easily passed by Congress. It would be hard to get an amendment change passed through to change the Second Amendment entirely, but taxation is a whole different subject. The government can pretty much raise lower taxes as they see fit. And I believe that the onset of gun confiscation will begin with small, very small, minuscule laws. These laws will do things like starting a gun registry. And for those that don't believe we have a gun registry, well, what do you think happens when we fill out the paperwork purchasing a gun legally? That paperwork is documented and that paperwork is kept on record. I had a gun store for a while that I owned, and the paperwork was just immense, the amount of paperwork I had to keep. So there is a gun registry already in place. They already know who is purchasing firearms. So this is already there. It's just not publicized and it's not advertised. So we don't per se have a registry as far as one complete list that we can view to see who has firearms and who doesn't, but the government does, the ATF does, because the ATF is the one that approves these firearms applications. So they have a complete record of who's buying what, when, and how much, and what type. So there is a gun control registry already in use today. And knowing this is going to make it even easier for the government to enact some type of excess taxation. The government is really big on taxes. We know that. They tax absolutely everything we do, from owning a vehicle to driving that vehicle. Anything we do, we're going to pay taxes on. Absolutely anything. There's nothing that we can pretty much own or do without paying a large amount of taxes. And our own salary is a good example of that. So they have no problem increasing increasing taxes or enacting new tax laws. And I believe that this will be the first step in gun confiscation. And the reason I say that is because it will begin like it's already begun. It's already begun with some of the states we're seeing by banning certain types of firearms. They're banning what they call assault rifle type of firearms. This does prevent people from getting semi-automatic weapons that have a capacity of more than 10 rounds. That's illegal in some states like California. There's a lot of laws and regulations already on the books, and several states really restrict the use and ownership of firearms to a select few, basically, and then they can limit how many you have. Everything starts with baby steps, and they'll begin with the small cities, the small towns, enacting much smaller laws, making it just a little bit harder to purchase a gun, probably ban person-to-person sales, which are illegal in a lot of states but are still legal in some states. And definitely the carrying of firearms, I see that as coming under fire here pretty soon. But no matter whether we have a firearm-friendly president right now, that's not going to maintain for long. So it's just a matter of time before another Democrat gets in office, and that's the ones that tend to really support the gun control issues. And they make statements like, we don't want to take your guns, we don't want to ban guns, we're not going to create a registry. Well, first of all, you've already got a registry. Second of all, you talk about banning firearms and controlling firearms on a daily basis. So there's no one out here that believes that the Democratic Party on the whole, or as a whole, does not support gun control because they advertise on a daily basis that they do. And this is a real issue because when it starts with the small things, where they're really going to get people is not just the small laws, the small ordinances that are enacted town by town, city by city, but it's the taxation. I believe that they're going to increase a tax. They're going to apply a tax to the purchase of firearms. Just like if you purchase a very expensive vehicle, if you go buy a Ferrari, a Lamborghini, or something like that, something that I can't afford, but if you buy something like that, then you have to pay a luxury tax along with that. We know that when we file our income taxes, there are certain things we're penalized for if we own more than one of, or if we're profiting a lot more than the government, expected, then we'll be penalized and we have to pay extra taxes, extra fees on this type of thing. I really do believe that the government will begin gun confiscation by simple taxation, and it will begin with your federal income tax and with taxes on the purchase of firearms. We already pay sales tax, state sales tax when we purchase a firearm, but what if they incorporated a $100 luxury tax with every firearm you purchase, or a $50 luxury tax with every firearm you purchase? How difficult would that make it for the average person to buy a decent firearm at that point? Firearms are already expensive, and when you increase the cost and then probably raise sales tax on firearms along with that, increasing the cost by as much as a couple $100 per firearm that you buy, then this is definitely going to decrease the amount of firearms that are purchased by legal individuals that can legally own these. And there's no shortage of firearms in the world. It's not like the United States is the only country producing them. This is a worldwide industry. So banning firearms or taking them from the people who have a right to own them is going to do one thing. It's going to accomplish one thing only, and that's disarming the law-abiding citizens and arming the criminals, because the criminals are not going to give up their guns. The criminals will maintain their firearms. Meanwhile, we will be forced one way or another to turn ours in. I don't think it's going to be a huge sweeping law that's just going to ban firearms throughout the United States. That would be way too controversial at this moment in time. That would probably cause an uprising and possibly lead to a civil war. So this will begin with taxation. It'll start with sales taxes being increased, and then a luxury tax, some type of luxury, or they may just call it firearm tax, will be added to your purchase. And it will make a $300 to $400 pistol, for example, around $600 or $700 by the time it's all said and done. And then at the end of the year, when we file our state and federal taxes, there's probably going to be more fines, or more fees, I should say, taxes that are added to it. We'll be asked to declare how many firearms we own, and then we'll have to pay luxury taxes once again to the federal government on that. And that's how they're going to confiscate guns. They're going to offer buyback programs for those that can't afford these taxes. We'll bring your gun up here, we'll give you book value for it, and they probably will. They'll probably give you a good price on it. So gun confiscation is something that we really are gonna have to face one day. They will force us to turn in our guns simply by taking our money and making it almost impossible for us to support our families. So this is something, just food for thought. I'd like to know everybody's opinion on this. So in the comments below, let me know anything that you've heard, anything you think about this. I hope you enjoyed the video. And for now, Serious Survivor, out.